All right, hi everyone. I'm happy to say that after a long wait, Hex Scatter version 2 is now available, and what this does is introduce the closure system that was added with Blender 5, was it? Which means that textures only need to be referenced once. So you can swap out textures easily now with Hex Scatter. People have been asking for this for a long time, and this update was supposed to be coming. I was leaving it to my code creator to do, but then they were busy. We were going to add a whole bunch of other features as well, but at some point I just stopped and said, okay, look, give me back the file, forget the new features and the upgrades and all of that. And it only took me about like half an hour to an hour. I was like, here, done, closures added. So yeah, basically there were other stuff that we wanted to add to improve it, but even still, without those extra features, this is still like the most powerful seamless texture scattering option for Blender available at the moment, particularly because of the height blending and normal correction. So as like before, we have biplanar options as well as triplanar in terms of the vector mapping. So as we can see, we have the closure versions. The closure versions are indicated by a prefix that just says closure. So if I open up here, this is all of the node groups available with Hex Scatter. We have simple hex splatting vector nodes. So if you want to combine this with your own materials or other mapping modes, then you can do that. We've got the triplanar version, which is going to be projecting hex scattering from the free planar direction. Then we have options for just normal color blending. So this is how the cells blend together. Although I do just need to reassign a texture in here now. There we go. So with the just basic color blending, you can see that we have hexagonal seams, and then it basically just like, you know, divers or blurs between them, which is not good for displacement, right? Which is why this is the most simple thing possible. Let me show you the biplanar as well. Biplanar is effectively the same as triplanar, but it's only using two planes in terms of directions. In theory, it's more efficient. We wanted to see if it was possible. So that's basically what like a lot of traditional non-seamless to seamless scattering techniques do. They do this divering method, but it's really bad. It's bad for displacement because when you're dithering like height values, particularly with stuff like noise, because the Blender shader register is more of like a vector system than a pixel system, so you have to do tricks to do blurring. And if you're combining noise with height/displacement data, then you get all sorts of weird artifacts where the seams occur. So what we do, for example, is we use a height blending method where we take a height map in a PBR workflow, and you can see what it does is instead of just doing a basic diver, is it uses the height data to inform how it should effectively average the height where the seams are. Average might not be the exact right word to use for it, as the co-creator who came up with this system, this particular technique, might give me a hard time for using that word. I don't know. I need to double check with her. But that's how I understand it. For me, it's almost like looking at a mudslide between a mountain and a valley, if that makes sense. Now that is a lot better for displacement because you're not injecting like random values that are going to give like weird artifacts. But anyway, what that means is if I just plug everything back in. Okay, so with that all plugged back in, using color, height, and normal, we end up with a properly blending and displacing seamless texture/material generator with randomizable rotation, variation in scale, etc., and obviously scaling the whole thing. So you can see here as we're doing the global scale, you can see where it's doing the triplanar projection, but as soon as it stops, that's basically invisible. You can't even tell where the triplanar is. Although you can see if I reduce the height blending, now you can see the triplanar seams. So the height blending occurs in two places, A, where the triplanar is, and B, where the hexagonal cells are. Now, I want to make you aware of one thing. There's a known issue with this version, right? So we've gained the ability to swap out whatever textures we want, which means you can just add an infinite number of materials to your file now using Hex Scatter. But again, keep in mind, you can't redistribute Hex Scatter. So you can't make material packs and resell them with this tool because it's our proprietary method. So this is for use inside of your own asset libraries, your private personal asset libraries. But the issue I want to make you aware of is if scale random is set to 0, then you'll notice something weird happens with the normals. But as soon as it goes anything above 0, then it goes back to normal. As well as that, if the cell blending goes to 0, the same thing will happen. I haven't quite figured out exactly why that is, but we're aware of it. In theory, what I should do is in the node group, I should set it so those values can only go to like a minimum of 0.001 or 0.01. So I might do that, but in the version you go and download, that might not be set. So just be aware that if you do have to use a really low value, like if you want the scale random to be 0, just instead set it to 0.001. It will look virtually no different and that normal issue won't occur. But to be honest, as much of an issue as that might be for someone, which I don't really think it should be, because again, visually it will make no difference. And the reason you'll be using Hex Scatter is to be using mostly organic type shapes anyway. So like a minuscule scale difference is not going to matter so much for you. But gaining the ability to swap out textures this easily makes it worth it for that, whatever that issue is. I don't even know. Maybe that issue was around from previous versions. I'll look into it. So by the way, I will do a sale for 1 week for Hex Scatter that's 25% off. And I'll probably make the code something like Hex25. So that'll be available on Gumroad if you want to pick it up. But I don't know if you watched my recent video, we're considering doing something where I put all of my products, including collaboration ones like this, available on the Patreon for the $10 tier. It's not there yet. We're discussing it, getting feedback, seeing how it will work to give people access to every tool for less that they can just like tap in and out of whenever they want. So how would you make your own materials with this? Well, you see that I've got these extra nodes here. This isn't required. This is just extra ambient occlusion stuff. You know, the color can just go straight into the prints board. I just like adding a little bit of like darkening to see what happens, you know, just to demonstrate the displacement. But if you wanted to make your own materials, it's easy. Just copy what's here. I mean, we've got everything marked as an asset, right? So the actual file you download will be a zip file, which inside contains a folder, which is an asset library. So you can use Hex Scatter as an asset library, and you'll see we've got a closure method category now. So you can just drag the node groups into whatever material you're making. If you don't know how to make or set up the closures, all you need to do is make a closure, then grab your PBR maps or whatever maps you want to use. At the moment, we support color, AO, metallic, roughness, height, normal, and a custom data map. Then you're going to take that entry input socket from the closure and you're going to drag it onto the vector, right? And so you can use the same vector for each one. And then you're going to plug the color value into the closure, but each one of them has to be an output socket. So you have your color, AO, you can rename them metallic, roughness, height, normal map, custom data. So you should rename them to match that. It might be easier working from actually inside of the Hex Scatter file, literally going to this pre-made material and then just making new closures, duplicating the material and then deleting whatever you don't need, just so you can see easily, just swap it in and out how it works. And then once you've got everything named properly, just drag the closure onto the material. But again, in this case, the things aren't named. So let me go and I'll do color, AO, metallic, roughness, height, normal map, custom data. Now, if that's okay, that should work. Yeah. So make sure they're named appropriately. Another important thing to keep in mind is that color should be the only image texture that has the color space set to sRGB. Pretty much everything else should be set to non-color. Please remember that. In fact, I don't even use the metallic for this one. Non-color for roughness, height, non-color, normal, non-color, custom data, whatever you're going to use it for. If you don't do that, then the results will look a bit weird, because if, say, for example, I set the normal map to sRGB, we're going to get weird normals, obviously. So make sure that's set to non-color. There we go. And it looked like then when I undid to go back to normal color, non-color, that didn't work. So you need to actually go back and click on it. I guess undo is a bit broken with that. So I was waiting for this version for a while because, again, going back in time a little bit, you'll know that I've done a whole bunch of material experiments. I've been waiting to do special material packs. And now that I'm working on the Project Forward production on the Patreon, kind of gave me a little bit of a kick to get this going because I need this tool. And here it is. It's ready. The closures are here. Oh yeah, there's another thing as well. So the clay fingerprints texture set was the original like demo texture set that was included. What I've done is I replaced the image data in the file. It was a PNG embedded image. I've replaced it with JPEG to save on space, and then also included the scalped clay, where I used a scalpel to push clay around, and scraped clay texture set. So you've got two more texture sets in here, and you may find these interesting to use for like sculpts or other things. Okay. There are still like the old convenience scripts for replacing textures in the node groups. You may not even need them anymore. So yeah, that's it. Version 2 is available, new closures, new texture set. Again, be aware of the scale random issue. Just have it slightly above 0 to avoid the normal problem. You know, I can look into that, but otherwise, enjoy. So that'll be on Gumroad for 1 week only on a discount, Hex25 for 25% off. Otherwise, consider signing up to the Patreon because we've got all sorts of other tools and resources on there, and much more will be coming. So thanks for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.